Good morning, Andre. Let's. I'm going to try to tackle a rather complex subject with this little YouTube video. So I'll try to be as quick as possible. The whole point is I don't want to bore you to death. I know you have better things to do than listening to me rant. But there's an option up here called menu, and I don't know what to call it. I just put menu, and it just stuck, and I forgot about it. At any rate, this is where we can uh, uh, designate different bands. So this is my thinking. First is the center date, and this is a really complex little widget thing I made here in HTML, and it seems to work really good. On the back end, it's really, I have to suck all these numbers and then validate them and that sort of thing, and it works. And we could do something where, like on travel sites and that sort of thing, they have these little calendars that could pop up a calendar, that sort of thing. I don't think that's going to work here because we're dealing with changing, multiple year spans and that sort of thing. That's good for picking a date like next week or next month. For something like this, I might want to change it to, 1800. And this is the year. This is the center date for when a user initially brings up a timeline. After that, every time a user changes something in a timeline, it should stick. And I'll show you some code to get the center date in JavaScript. And you probably already know that. And every time somebody saves something and goes back out, it should stick at the same date that they were at, regardless of what the center date was. Mine currently doesn't do that. So if you notice, I changed it to 1800. If I went over here and if I went over to 1700 in the center right here. So 1700 is in the center, and I went and I selected menu, and I went back. My timeline instantly goes to back to the center date. And I know I didn't zoom in on that. I apologize. Notice before I went into that menu choice, I was back here at 1700, and now it's back to 1800. And it should have been, so you're going to have to keep a variable between menu choices of where the timeline is centered on, and to automatically go back for that user. So it's sort of like you know who's coming back into the website because they have an ID, and along with their ID, they'll have the last center date for the timeline that they're currently working on. If that's not clear, I can elaborate on that. So we go back into the menu choice again, and I'm sorry, last time I didn't do this. Pop up a box here and get this sucker over here. We have the height of the timeline, and that's pretty straightforward. It's in pixels. The problem comes in is when we're dealing with bands, and I want to allow users to add and subtract bands, and put different data sources, or in this case, it's an event source. So you could theoretically put, Leonardo da Vinci, and then have a separate band for Michelangelo, which would be a different event source. And then you would have like an overview for Leonardo da Vinci, bifurcating the timeline horizontally this way. And so it would be where is that? Layout type for the Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo would be layout type, or it would be Leonardo da Vinci's event source, and then Leonardo da Vinci's event source again with an overview, and then Michelangelo's event source in layout type original, and Michelangelo's event source overview. and then of course they would scroll together. The tricky part is the math. For our timeline here, F9 here, the original layout type right here is 90% right here. And the overview is 10%. So it has this nice little band down here. Where it gets tricky is if you start allowing people to put numbers in here, I mean, they're going to have to do some math because it's a percentage, because, 10% plus 90% is 100% of 600 pixels. So the trick is that people are going to be able to put inaccurate numbers in here, and I've devised an algorithm to take 2, 3, 4 numbers and then force them to all add up to 100%. And that's kind of tricky, and it's going to be a little wicked. So, and the unit is self-explanatory. Pixels per unit. If you play around with that, you'll be able to see what that does. That's hard to explain. I'm not going to try to explain it. Per unit is, for every decade, is 75 pixels, basically. And in the overview, every decade is 40 pixels. So you don't have to do any math on that. That's just a quantitative thing. That's just a visual. So, but it's important to damn, I forgot to zoom in on that. But I think you get the picture.